It is the 11th of April, 2024. This is Gimbalabs Live Open Spaces. We get together on Wednesdays and Thursdays to talk about stuff. Sometimes we split up into breakout rooms and do focused work. Other times we look at projects that people want to propose to the team and we start working. But we always have some good conversations like we did yesterday. So the way we start is on a Miro board right here. This is public, and I just shared it in the chat. I'm going to set a timer for 2 minutes just to give everybody a chance to collect their thoughts. So if you have access to the Miro board, you can jump in to April 11th, grab a sticky note or two, jot your ideas. You can move them around, duplicate them, change the colors if you want to. But if you're not on Miro, feel free to just unmute during these next 2 minutes and I'll write down your thoughts, or you can share them in the chat and we'll get them onto the board. Other than that, enjoy the moment to collect your thoughts. See you in 2 minutes. Looks like there's some technical stuff today. This is pretty exciting. So moving left to right, Nelson, I'm guessing this one was you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, at least Adrian and I people are, welcome. But Adrian and I will be talking about some stuff about integrations to Adamio.
Brilliant. Yeah, if anybody just wants to learn by work in progress, this will be a great one to observe. That's awesome. I threw PBL lesson writing in. Andamio is ready for content, and so it's feeling exciting to work on that. So if anybody wants to give that a try, I'd be happy to work with you. But if nobody wants to do that today, I might be really excited to look at the technical conversation as well. How about this technical conversation? Mesh, Parse Blueprint, and TS types.
Yeah, this one is me. This is something that I kind of owe Jingles, something else that I owe Jingles, that probably I have to do this one first before writing more contrast. It will be much more productive. Like giving a brief description of this thing is that after icon teams bring out the blueprint things, like after writing your contract, you compile into a blueprint where you describe your data redeemer or parameter types. And then now we kind of get some of the clues about the type in the smart contract that we are writing. So that's why there are some people in the mesh community that are asking for this feature, which is just plug in the blueprint JSON to some sort of functions, and then we can return some of the TypeScript types. so that when writing the off-chain codes, we know exactly that we have the correct redeemer or datums. So this is something that, yeah, I would try to spend sometimes today to work on that. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm adding these to actual breakout rooms today because this is really interesting.
There's a message from Ken in the chat.
Nice. I'll get to Ken, and then first I see Harsha's got this one here. You want to add anything on that?
Oh, nothing, just like feedback from yesterday I wanted to implement in the lo-fi models.
Working sesh, that's great. And I'm finding my chat. I got too many Zoom windows open. Where is the chat? There it is. Yeah, Ken, is the driver ready for review on that proposal? Do you want to spend time looking at that? Or do you want to use a breakout room to refine the proposal?
But it's up to what everyone else wants to do. Like I don't know. I guess my approach is a little bit different this time. I'm not sure if it's better or not.
I would, so good. Let's make that a breakout room. Okay, it sounds like you're still in the process of refining the proposal. When you feel 100% certain that it's ready to share, you'll know it. Okay, so when you have a proposal that you're so proud of, that you're ready to bring it, to take it through the consent process,
I
that's
don't
what we
know
should
if
do as a
it's,
whole team.
yeah, like, well, it has more to do with other people's expectations than what I think myself. I think because the process isn't about me knowing what I'm doing, because I already know what I'm doing or what I want to do. So like I don't know.
Cool. Remember that the only reason we need a proposal is if you're asking other folks to do something or if you need funding, okay? And so if you have a proposal that's specifically asking for people's time or for funds from the treasury that we're just starting to have access to now, that's where the group consent process would come in. Without a proposal that asks for those things, of course, all of us can do the things that we know that we're doing, right? So yeah, I would suggest keep doing the things you already know you can do. As you see that you need support from other people and funding, put that into a proposal. And if you need feedback on the proposal, that's a perfect thing to do in a breakout room.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what I'll do then. We'll maybe do it in a breakout room.
So yeah, we could have like a breakout room for this. You can think about what's, I think, right, this is part of community and onboarding, I guess, is part of it, but it's also building, so you can move that sticky. Harsha, what do you say?
So I'm just curious. So in case you're not asking for people's help or any financial rewards, but the work you're doing kind of affects like the Gimbalabs community, what do we do in that case? Do we still like go through the proposal process, or do you work by yourself?
That's a good clarification. So yeah, the way I said it is like asking for help, but maybe that's a better generalization, right? If it's going to affect other people in some way, it ought to be proposed. I think from just philosophy wise, what I would really like to see is that nobody has to ask for permission to do the thing that they were individually going to do anyway, right? That's the most important thing. So really proposals, it does ask of other people to spend time on those, right? So when we think about bringing proposals to the group, those should be oriented towards something that's going to have some impact on everybody else. Alex, what do you think?
I think that our vocabulary is not enough, not sufficient to cover all the situations. What I did yesterday with the Gimbalabs in Russia, like regional chapter, or what is Harsh is saying, yeah, I'm doing what I'm doing, but it affects other people. So between proposal, asking for resources, and just doing the stuff on your own, there's supposed to be some process for checking. So I'm saying, yeah, I'm doing this. Probably, maybe I will require funds in the future, like I said yesterday, and this will affect these people, because if I bring people to, if people ask me about, I'm not gonna host live coding myself, most likely. I will try to relay them to the main live coding, but the obstacle is not everyone is like okay with speaking English. So I will do like minimal effort to support people who are shy about their English, and then I will refer them. So it will affect James, you personally, right? So I check in to kind of keep in touch and to share what I do and validate, you know.
Yeah. Good. We're honing in on this. We have to wrap our minds around this, and it's exciting that we get to practice together. Thanks, guys. Cool. Well, so the breakout rooms are open. But just quick pulse check if these are the main things, what should stay here on the broadcast? Nelson, Adrian, do you guys want to keep this part private for now, or would it be okay if we stayed here to work on this?
Yeah, this doesn't need to be in the main room, I think.
So keep that one in a breakout room. So I think any of these could fit in the main room. Let's use our old friend, the voting tool, real quick. If you had to pick a room, I'm going to give everybody 1 minute to pick one sticky note from right here. And once again, if you don't have Miro, just drop a note in the chat, and this will help us decide what stays here in the live room. And actually, it'll be between those because we're not including that. So 4 options, 1 minute. Voting is open. Once again, if you're not able to vote, just drop your choice into the Zoom chat and we'll count it that way. Hey, Juan.
Hey, James.
All right. Preparing results. We got a couple of votes. All right, we got 2 votes for building these TS types right here. And it looks like we got 2 more votes for PBL lesson writing in the chat. So by a thin margin, it looks like maybe we'll stick here to do some lesson writing. But could we combine this? You're doing, Hinson, your work is really, you're in the code right now. You're not writing lessons about the code base quite yet.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, cool. I'll take people for a quick spin here. Technical work can go on in the background, but I'm excited to learn from you guys from both of those. So awesome, thanks. Good. This is it's pretty interesting to see so many technical ways that we could be doing things today. Once again, breakout rooms are open, so you can jump to those. And we'll stay here to take a little look at writing some PPBL content and see how that goes. See you soon, everybody. Have fun. I'll pull this up to share our current state. So we're in the process of As you know, there's a bunch of content here on the Plutus PBL website. We can navigate the modules this way. And some of the content here might actually still be quite useful, right? But I don't know, right? So some of this is, there's going to be at some point, yeah, I guess these need to be rewritten, and there's some other thinking about this. But sometimes we might have a little bit of copying and pasting we can do to get started. And so now we can really start getting into the like drafting process around this work. We have this course overview here in Andamio. We already have Nelson, Jingles, Hinson, Mix, Sebastian, and Juan in here who are able to add content to the course. So first of all, to anybody who also wants to contribute to the course, this is the public URL right now, v2.andamio.io. You will have to log in, and the only option for logging in is Discord. We're trying to minimize the scope of what data is on our server, right? So we don't want to collect names and email addresses, that kind of thing. So in these early days, we know we collaborate with a lot of people who are already using Discord. That's how you'll log in there. And once you are logged in, if you want to join the course, let me know, and I'll be able to add you. Is anybody already in and need to be added as a course creator? Harsha, are you in?
Yes.
Awesome. And did you enable the course creator part yet?
I'm trying to figure out.
No, it's hidden. So I'm gonna drop a link in the chat here.
Okay.
Just go to this link and tap the button.
Okay.
It's incredibly secure.
Okay.
But anybody who clicks this link, you can tap that button, and now you'll be enabled as a creator. Now think ahead. Now that we're able to trigger this transaction, it's just a matter of connecting it to the blockchain to add a little bit of validation logic to this. And that's what Adrian and Nelson are working on right now, okay? So if you want to see how you go from a button like the one Harsha just clicked to the on-chain interactions, that's what you'll see over there. But there he is, perfect, added to the course. You're now a course manager of Plutus PBL 2024. Beautiful, thanks. So let's play with this. If anybody else wants to get in, let me know. The main way to interact with course creation is from this page right here in the studio, where we have our list of modules, and for each module, a list of learning targets. Once again, what's a module? Well, it has a title and it has a bunch of learning targets. It might have an intro if you want to say a few words to introduce it, and it might have an assignment if you want to assess those learning targets in some way. Notice the word we don't see on the page right here is lesson. Okay, we're starting to move towards understanding that lessons are optional. In a beginner's course about Cardano development, we probably want to teach a brief lesson about this famous learning target right here. I know how to safely store my keys. Maybe we give somebody some tips and tricks for doing a good job at this, right? But as we've discussed before, we really can't assess this. And when we look at, for example, the assignment right here, whoops, that's not implemented. You can see, well, okay, there's a few things that we're still rolling out right here. But we have only 2 of these learning targets being measured by this assignment because, for example, this one, we're not even going to try to measure it. Now, fast forward. Imagine you're in an expert developer course, and you're assuming that you have expert developers coming to the table, but you still want to check, hey, everybody, if you want to be on this team, you have to know how to safely store your keys. That's just an example, right? But maybe you don't even want to teach them about that again. You're just going to include the learning target, but no new lesson content. We have the ability to think about things that way, okay? Introduction, you can include that. Assignment, optional, but if you want to assess the learning targets, you will. Learning targets, required. But finally, the lessons themselves, those are optional. But suppose I do want to build a lesson. I click the document. I might have done that too quickly, right? You just click the document to add a lesson or to edit the one you've got. And now you can start building a lesson around this, okay? So right here, let's try this. What did this lesson look like in last year's version of the course? Getting started, securing your keys. I don't know if any of this content is useful. Let's just drop it in here so we have it. Maybe we'll use it, maybe not. Okay, looks like there's a video link here. So I don't know if this will be helpful, but at least we can grab the link to it here and keep that as a placeholder, okay? And then right here, we have a description field in our database. We're not using it in the public-facing UI right now. So this is kind of a fun question to ask everybody here. Would it be helpful just to include a little creator notes section right here, where you can keep like teacher-only notes, right? That everybody who's a collaborator will be able to see, but will never be public. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Hey team, I wrote this lesson, or I copied this lesson from PBL, Ludus, PBL.io, that kind of thing. Thinking about some kind of creator notes here. We do want to have a title. What was the title last year? Securing your private keys. Yeah, that still works. Securing your private keys. And just like that, right? We can make some notes. We can have a video URL. We can start writing some content. We can save it. And if we want to, when we're ready, we'll be able to publish it just to see what that looks like. Now we can jump over here. You'll see the video is not implemented yet, but here's our public content. And so our goal is between migrating content from the old course and reviewing the learning targets, we're going to be able to start fleshing these out over the next few weeks. Who has questions just about the practical concerns of adding content to this course?
What do you mean by practical concerns? I was thinking that, like, so you're saying, I know how to safely store my private keys, and maybe shorter formulation. So I know how to manage my keys, and then the content of the lesson includes information about having private keys and public keys, and then it's kind of a little bit different lesson, but it teaches the same thing in the score.
So we can just tweak these words here, right? I can
This wording was pretty okay. It was just yeah, okay. If you want to see like my private keys in the title, that's I was just pointing out that before in the title you said my private keys, and then like, but what about your public keys?
Well, good. Okay. No, okay. Thank you. Now I understand. So yes, that's on purpose. And just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, right? Like this learning target says, I know how to safely store my keys.
Right.
And then the lesson title says securing your private keys.
Oh yeah.
And you're exactly right. The language doesn't match precisely. And that's every educator can choose whether or not to match the title to the learning target. Some will say, oh, yes, those words must match precisely, and they're not wrong. And others, this is my philosophy. I believe that this is just a way to teach people the informal use of language, right? A lot of times when people are entering a technical field, they're never sure what phrases are used like colloquially, like
Mhm.
and you go back and forth between those things. So we have a chance just to put language in front of people, right? And say, oh yeah, I know how to safely store my keys. Okay, what's the title of this lesson? Securing your private keys. Okay, so when people talk about keys, often they're talking about the private ones.
Right.
And so that's something that would be easy to, obviously, lots of people might have different approaches to that. At the end of the day, somebody's going to write each lesson.
Right.
And the person who takes on the responsibility of writing the lesson is going to make an editorial decision about what to call it.
Right.
Yeah, and these learning targets, I like that change. That's cool. And we can keep tweaking these, but we did also put in a lot of time to coming to agreement that the learning targets in the first 4 modules are what we want, right? So yes, there are probably words we could tweak here, and all of us can pay attention to just the real limits of how much time we have to get this project done. So I think it's worth it to not try to tweak this language too much right now, because we already did the work of agreeing on it. And now to move forward and say, okay, once an organization gets together to write learning targets, there's only one thing to do. You try to teach those to people. Here we are. Okay.
Right.
Other technical questions? Does anybody else need access, or does anybody who has access have any questions about how to start adding content? Okay. So the other part is project management. What we know is we have an approved proposal for writing and editing to be funded from the Gimbal Pool Treasury, right? So now as people start to do this, and we're building up project management systems in Notion. We also have the on-chain treasury part, which we're going to start to use as content starts to come online, okay? But for now, if anybody wants to, we're a small group. We can do this informally. If you want to just try writing one of the lessons, just let everybody else know, so there's no duplicate work. So is anybody looking at the learning targets we have so far and thinking about writing a lesson? Is there one that you'd like to reserve for yourself?
Well, the 1003 looks really tempting.
Yeah, you want to write that one? That's great.
Yeah, okay, I will.
Yeah. And then remember, right? Then an editor is going to look at it, have feedback for you. And for all of us, a lot of us have had these conversations over and over again throughout the years. Remember that the audience for this course is somebody who's just exploring Cardano development for the first time, right?
Okay,
And
I'm gonna
so,
write this down.
right, our goal as writers of this content is not to prove how much we know.
Right.
And I'm saying this because this is the thing I taught to teachers for the last 5 years of my career in education. Your job is not to prove to students how smart you are. Your job is to make sure that students learn something. Now, I know a lot of teachers who like to prove to students how smart they are. They're not usually the good teachers. Our goal is to help people learn things. What things? These things. Who's learning them? People who are brand new to Cardano development.
Okay, so I write down the audience is someone who just begins exploring Cardano. What else could be important to know about this lesson? It's a lesson, right?
It's a lesson. You'll come to this document right here. You'll be able to write a lesson.
All right, but I'm not on the list of editors. Is there a specific format like with the proposals, or I can just do it in the Google Docs and send it to you so that you review it and just edit?
If you're going to edit content, please join the platform. Yeah, we're not going to build new systems just to add this thing we already have.
Okay, I'm gonna join the platform, just not right now, but asynchronously.
Cool. Try to, just imagine it, right? Yeah, Mix, sorry, I see your hand.
No problem. My question is actually, I mean, it's kind of related, but I wonder if we put assignment for each SLT compared to what we have now, several SLT, one assignment. And I wonder which system or which approach would be ideal or better. I mean, maybe not the use of, I mean, good word for ideal, I mean, beneficial, something. So I wonder the comparison between each SLT, one assignment, or for example, a project for each SLT, or no, several SLT and one assignment.
Excellent. Okay, this is such an important question. It's very intentional that modules have many SLTs, and then assignments are at the module level where one or more of those learning targets can be added to an assignment. And sorry, I just realized we don't quite have the UI that shows where this has already been done, but here's the form. When I go to build an assignment for this module, I'm going to choose some subset of the learning target. Now I could choose all of them, right? But maybe I only want to choose some. And so Mix, here's a way to think about this, and this is what's built into this platform. Again, it comes back to who we're building this for, right? We're building it so that learners can learn. We're not building it to make sure that every single thing somebody does is assessed, right? You can imagine that if we were assessing an assignment, which somebody has to do, that takes work to look at student work, right? You can imagine if we were looking at evidence for every single one of these things. Hey, the assignment for this learning target, right? Make us a 3-minute video where you tell us all of your special tricks for managing your private keys, right? And now you can imagine all of the people who have to watch those videos and say, yes, that person who made that video, right? I'm saying kind of a silly example just to illustrate the point, right? But the idea here is if we assess every learning target individually, that's a fast route to runaway bureaucracy where everybody's burnt out. So what do we do instead? We think strategically about which learning targets we really have to assess. Let's use this. Yeah.
How can me as a course creator can find this sweet spot at how many SLTs should be assigned to an assignment, or one is like too much, some is not enough? Like me as a, how can I
Professor, that is why we are building on Damio AI directly into this platform. Okay. To help people think about what they really want people to learn, and then to make decisions exactly like the questions you're asking. What should the learning targets be? Is this too many? Okay, how can I structure this? Which ones should I assess? And Jingles already has a proof of concept here. So there's a button on our dev branch where you click the button, it pulls in some ideas for your lesson, and now you're not starting from zero when you build the lesson. Okay. So yeah, people will need help with this because it's a different way of thinking. Why are people going to need help? Well, one reason is the strategic reason that you just named, but the other is that most of us didn't learn this way.
Yeah, exactly. The project-based learning, actually, the thing I learned in their school was testing. Like their project was the test, and everything they taught, there was a test afterward.
Yeah.
I
learned how to be obedient and not get in trouble at school.
Exactly.
right? A lot of good that did me. So look, this is, right, this is what happens when you say that your focus is on one thing, people learning things. Our goal is for people to learn things. Now, at the end of the day, we'd like to help those people have some proof that they did learn something. Why? Because if they have that proof, now that they can communicate it to strangers, right? And that's how you start to build networks of collaborative trust. But we have to start with this, right? Hey, did you learn this thing? Well, look at these learning targets. Right? I can deploy a simple front end, okay? I can build a transaction. This is still just a draft of a learning target, right? These are not even done yet. I can run the app locally, and I can use the Connect Wallet app component to connect a user's wallet. I mean, first of all, these seem like they're out of order. I feel like we should have people running this locally first before they start to deploy anything. And the deployment part actually feels kind of optional. Maybe we put that at the end. And before I can build a transaction, I do need to connect my wallet. So I'm already imagining rearranging these things just by thinking about this question. But now, just from a technical perspective, if you had to pick one of these, which one of these is the easiest for the teacher to get some evidence about? Which one of these would produce some kind of public artifact that a teacher would only have to look at for about 15 seconds to know whether or not the student can do that thing?
It's almost like you need to get the students to have the same app to just record these 15 seconds, right? You know, this is like somehow, you know, like whatever your student token, is attached to this little 15-second clip that the teacher can look at.
Maybe. Right. I don't actually, as a teacher.
That may be too complicated.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, so you could build that, but as a teacher, I don't even want to watch each of my students talking for 15 seconds. What if there's 400 students like at Plutus PPBL last year? That's a lot of time. Right? So no, I want something even easier than that. Which one of these creates an artifact that somebody could just send to me? And I could say, oh, yeah, you got that artifact.
The third one.
That's one, right? If you create a transaction from the application, that transaction is going to go on chain. That makes a transaction hash. What about this one? If you deploy an app, isn't it going to have a URL that you deployed it to? And can't you send me that URL? I can click on it. I can say, oh, yeah, that's done. Right? Now, I'm not even assessing directly. Do I want people to be able to run this demo app locally? Yeah. And if they can, they'll be able to play with this Connect Wallet component. And then, what we could do, this is where it gets really interesting, right? We could provide a demo app that adds something to the transaction, maybe some metadata or even a signature, right? So that we know that it came from this local use. Or we could just have people deploy something and show us, right? But I don't think we have to directly assess these first two, right? Because if you did this, we're going to say, hey, look, deployment is harder than running something locally. If you were able to deploy it, we're going to assume you got it running locally. Great. Oh, connecting your wallet. Yeah, if you were able to send a transaction, you must have been able to connect your wallet. So I don't need to assess this one. So maybe I want to assess just these last two, or just one, or just the other. As a course creator, you get to decide. What's the module about? It's about building a front end for some Cardano application. And we want to have just enough assurance, right? If Harsha works through this course and Gimbalabs says, hey, Harsha finished this module, right? We want to be just confident enough that if somebody asks Harsha to build a front end for a Cardano application, he says, yeah, because these guys over at Gimbalabs, they told me I could do that, right? We want to be just sure enough that he'll have enough skills to make it look like that credential is worth something. And that's what we're looking for when we assess these assignments, right? Is this learner going to look good out in the world with this credential? Now, this one, what I would really like to do is have an assignment where we play around with hysteria. Okay. And maybe we certainly can do 201.3. Maybe we have people deploy something. I'll put that there as a maybe for now. Okay. Cool. And this gets pretty fun because now we can start thinking about what this assignment is going to be, right? Now we can grab a link. And here's why it's helpful just to start thinking about it this way. Let's go find that link. So we got it. It can be really interesting to think from this perspective, because once I know what assignment I'm planning towards, now I can look at these learning targets again through that lens. Okay. So TX Pipe is building this project that's going to allow people to play a game that helps them understand the EUTXO model. Good. Now, the EUTXO model is not really the focus of this module right here, but it is a theme that we're trying to help people understand in this course. So that gets me wondering, how does Asteria work, first of all, right? Like, what are some of the basic transactions here? And it's still being built. We can ask the team when it's going to be ready. They're working on it, though. Look, 17 hours ago, 19 hours ago. Yeah, this is a work in progress. They'll have something to share eventually. And maybe we can get an early demo of it. But you can imagine if that team is able to build a game where I can build transactions by any method, there's nothing stopping us from taking one such transaction and making a simple UI for it, right? What if this demo app had a little simple interaction with like an Asteria game board, for example? That's something I've been daydreaming about. Alex, what do you think?
Did you know that instead of just going and sharing, they host Project Pulse in the TXPipe server every Tuesday, I think, 5 p.m. UTC.
Tuesdays.
You have to check, and I can check for
Yeah. But that's another great idea for a link to share right here. TX Pipe Discord server
event.
weekly event. Yeah, that's very cool. Right. And a lot of this stuff, I'm just taking some notes here on the assignment page, but some of this I might move into some other lessons depending on what we end up deciding to do later. Okay. And so this is often the process, right? You get some learning targets to get you started. You think about the project people are going to do, right? We don't know exactly what that something is yet, but we're going to have people do something with Asteria at the end of this module, right? And now what you can do is earlier in the module, you can still introduce the assignment. Okay. So we want to get people to this point where they're doing something and maybe proving to us one or two of these learning targets. So what do we do first? Well, that's going to inform the first lesson, isn't it? Right? Okay. So start playing with the PPBL demo app. And maybe we could have something along the lines of, well, we want to start simple, run the app, right? We'll probably have some code there. That kind of thing, right? And then we can say, look at Asteria. And we could say navigate to local host 3000. And now you're starting to imagine, right? This demo app that we prepare might have a route for Asteria on it. And then on that route, maybe there's, oh, I really want to include that. We have code block for now. Maybe on that route, we can have some TSX code, right? Like this. Right, and we'll write most of that in a code editor and then copy and paste it here, but you can start to see, even thinking at this level, okay, allows us to start imagining what little demo stuff we might need to build, right? Writing a lesson from nothing is really hard. Building a toy first, like a demo application, and then taking notes on your process of building that app is probably the best way to write a lesson like this. Okay. Do something. We're trying to write lessons that get people to do something. So do a thing, take notes about how it felt to do that thing or where you got stuck, and then create a lesson on a document like this that gives people the same experience. Right? Maybe there's a connect wallet button. Nice. You'll learn more about that button later. Because I think, isn't the next lesson about, yeah, this is the connect wallet, right? So now we start to think more, either these learning targets can be changed, or this first learning target is a really, really short lesson, right? Okay. Run the demo app. Yeah, what if we keep that simple? What if look at Asteria? That doesn't even fit here, maybe. Maybe that fits better on lesson 3, where we start getting into actually building some transactions. Okay. Is this process making sense? I'm trying to kind of illustrate how we can all start to iterate together. This is where it gets really fun, is when you start putting these puzzle pieces together, thinking towards the assignment, and then thinking about what series of experiences people will have along the way to get them ready for the assignment that they're going to do on their own. Making sense? Up here, the process will be a little different because we're already happy with these learning targets. Getting started, the project is just going to be to mint that token. 101 is a survey of different validator languages, but we're going to demonstrate the same PPBL faucet in each one. We talked a little bit about that one yesterday. Building your first transactions, we're going to reuse the assignment from last year, changing the lucky number on your token. And this one probably doesn't need an assignment. But maybe we want people to come say hello somewhere. And we can make that the assignment. Add assignment. Just this one. Say hello on Gimbalabs Discord, right? Or ask a question on Gimbalabs Discord. But I have mixed feelings about this, right? Do we want people asking questions on Discord just to check a box? Maybe, maybe not. So we can decide later if we need an assignment right there. I could go either way. And then the 200 level, this is where we've now agreed on the outline for the course. Okay. We all got together, we wrote the learning targets for the first 4 modules, and then over the course of a couple of weeks, we refined this list of module titles. And we feel pretty good that this is the right scope. But notice, none of these have learning targets finalized yet. Minting tokens. What are the things we want to show people? We write learning targets for those. What's the assignment we're going to ask them to do? Any objections just continuing with module 201, or is anybody feeling pulled to look at a different part of this course outline? Talk about some other lessons up here or drafting learning targets down here. I'm going to play around with this one a little bit more then. I don't like these words yet. Something along those lines. Simple transaction.
Just say in a bathrobe.
In your bathrobe. For now, I'll just say using Mesh SDK because that is what we're going to show them. And then deployment was the end of the chain. This one really does feel optional. That was interesting when that came up. I want another one. I can build a transaction that interacts validator. Can build a UI component for a transaction, maybe. And that would go here. So imagine this flow, right? This, where'd we do this last year? And this was just talking about conditional rendering. We were we didn't even really directly cover the shape of a mesh transaction. Here's wallet. That shows us how to contribute. Here's queries. We're excited about those. But we go a little deeper here. Well, in any case, we have simple. Oh, Alex, sorry, I didn't see your hand.
I forgot to lower it from the last test. I'm working on the slides for identity.
Awesome, perfect. You know what I just pushed yesterday? Now that's just queries though. I just want to have a simple transaction. This guy is just a start. Let's not try to get it from there though. Let's just go to the mesh website. Yeah, showing just this. We need people that understand that part. So simple transaction, good, is not going to be with a stereo. TX with a link from the top of the page. Yeah, that's fine. So this, we have the source. And then this, we'll remove that and bring this to the next lesson. Okay. Oh, breakout rooms are returning. Hey guys.
Yeah, I'm
Nice.
running out of ideas, so just take a rest. Tell them to see what's happening.
That was more than a 30-minute sprint. That was good.
Yeah.
We're playing around with module 201 right here and imagining like people's first exposure to the front end of an application. And so we know we have Mesh PBL, so we're not going to teach all of Mesh. And we also know that it could be really fun if we used Asteria in some project that spans across some of the 200 level modules as they're building this game that's geared towards teaching the UTXO model. So imagine if this is what people saw before we kicked them over to the Mesh PBL course. Just grab a repo, run it locally, take a quick look at that Connect wallet component so you know how it works. Build your first simple transaction, right? Something straight from the docs like this, or Hinson, if you recommend it. Yeah, let me write a note here. Ask Hinson. Should we use the lower level APIs? Do you have an answer to that one off the top of your head? Or should we come back to that later?
I think actually I favor that using the lower level API directly here, just to get clear on the concept on how you control the transaction directly. Especially here when we try to send off lace, it's pretty straightforward. It won't get into so much complexity. There's just 3 lines maybe, specifying input, specifying output, specifying change address. Probably that's it. And there is also a UTXO selection endpoints there. So not much other coding needed right now to do this. So it should be fine.
So if
just-
this is the message, this is okay.
Yeah.
Like this,
I
we
think
don't
so.
need, so, and I can just remove this bit, the old way of doing it for now.
Maybe we can retain the the code snippet interface, just changing a bit. Yeah, onto
Remember,
like
just slash
retain the
code.
framework. Oh, I see. Is that easy? Okay.
Old way for reference. Probably delete.
Are we going to include the code-based linting here as well later? The
You know,
features.
that sounds like a really good task to be funded from a treasury that we could just post and say, hey, can somebody upgrade our editor? So yeah, because I would love that. There's a couple things like I don't, obviously typing code is really nice, but I keep going like this because that's what I'm used to. Oh, it works. Oh, I just didn't press enter. Idiot. It's already there. Jingles is good. He knows what he's doing. So yeah, so build a simple one. We'll go with lower level APIs. Hinson promise to do this in just 1/2 line of code. Amazing.
What's
Hey,
that?
we'll hold you to that.
How can you have a 1/2 line of code?
Cool. So that one feels good. We'll do something simple there. And now you can start to see as well, lessons don't have to be long, right? One rule of thumb, it's not about the teacher looking smart, it's about people learning. A corollary of that is the less we say, the better, right? So if this lesson is just, hey, Mesh allows you to do this thing. In the last lesson, you learned how to connect to your wallet. Now, add these 3 lines of code to your demo project, and voila, you just sent a transaction from the browser. Done. That's the whole lesson.
So then, if in the lesson how to safely store my keys, I could just make a diagram which shows like all your money in the wallet and put your picture on Instagram. The screenshot
Right,
of keys on Instagram.
Let's have fun too, right? Yeah, if that lesson was simply here are 10 things not to do and it was hilarious, maybe that's the best version of that lesson.
All right, cool. I'm gonna think of that because this is the way I like to do things.
Yeah, because in that situation, it's not about the lesson. It's about the sensation of the feeling of what is secure and what is not. You choose.
Right, right. Okay, that's
We
good.
could even do a little social campaign where it's like a Web3 dev talking to a Web2 dev. Right? Web2, we can just assume a Web2 dev is somebody who's never held on to, their crypto keys or something.
Can
And
you
we can
find
say,
one
well,
like
what
this?
do those people need to know?
I'm afraid it's hard to find one like this. Every computer programmer I meet, they just had some exposure to crypto.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's a very small group, right? We're including this lesson just to be sure that we've got it. But hopefully most people who come to our course don't need us to teach them this. And that's the other thing that we can communicate in this lesson. And I think that's what it said last year. What was the idea? Right, like we didn't say much. Yeah, we had a live conversation about it.
All right.
Yeah. Super short. That was everything. This is not going to be the same message because it's going to be a slightly different experience. We'll talk more about the difference between the demo app that we're going to provide like here in 201, but also there's going to be, even though this course right here is hosted on Andamio and people are going to be reading the content here, there's going to be a companion website hosted over at PPBL it's no longer going to be a course, right? This is not going to look like this anymore. It's just going to be a really simple deployment of an app that people can play with and start to use over time. Does that make sense? Okay. So people will say, okay, you're reading this course. Now go over to the PPBL website so you can mint your pre-prod token. And for anybody who's thinking like Andamio team members, this is a different thing entirely from the network access token. This is just going to be a dummy token on pre-prod that allows people to play with the toy application that's running over here, and then to do things like this assignment, changing your lucky number. Okay. And it'll have no relation with the access token, but it's just an ongoing project that people will play with. Then by the time they get to module 201, we'll say, hey, here's the source code for that toy application that's running over here. And now you get to start playing with it. And now you get to start putting sample components on it like we've had people do in years past. Okay. So I just haven't had time to initialize that yet. We have something similar on the Mesh PBL team, right? We have the course, and then we have a demo app that gives people just access to all sorts of source code that they can play with. Okay. Does anybody else need access? Because you might want to start writing some content here. Okay. Cool. We'll stop here for today. We'll end the live stream. Anybody watching this, we do this every Wednesday and Thursday, and it's a different agenda every time we do it. Sometimes, like this, over the last few weeks, we've been talking about Plutus PBL because that's one project we're working on at Gimbalabs right now. But there's a bunch of people who spent time in other breakout rooms today. Often we do governance here when people have proposals to review, and you never know what other topics might come up. So drop by. Details are at gimbalabs.com/calendar. We hope to see you soon. Take care, everybody.